Carlos Rodon continues to look like a Cy Young contender for the San Francisco Giants through 3 starts and one of the best signings of the offseason, and he helps the Giants get this critical win in Game 3 of the series against the Mets. We'll talk about it next.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on this show we provide daily episodes Monday through Friday talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thanks for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. And coming up on today's show, what else are we going to talk about? Carlos Rodon shoving against the New York Mets. Yes, he had issues with command at times, and his pitch count ran up, and he was only able to go 5. But man, if this guy can just throw the ball in the strike zone, particularly with the fastball, good luck as an opposing hitter. I'm not sure I've ever seen a guy be able to dominate in the strike zone like Carlos Rodon. And we knew coming in, I mean, he had this breakout kind of year with the White Sox last year, and he's absolutely just been able to carry it over. And those 5 innings shutout baseball were more than enough to help this Giants offense that was able to score 5 runs be well on their way to victory. And it was a key victory for this team after losing both games in the doubleheader. If you lose this game with Rodon, then you're suddenly looking at potentially getting swept in a 4-game series. But now, as it is, you have a chance to come out here, win a game, and split this series, which would just be a huge kind of momentum boost after losing the first 2. And this is a brutal road trip, mind you. And it's already been long and grueling. And then they have 2 more cities after New York they have to go to, with Washington, D.C., and then 1 game in Milwaukee. So a key Giants win. It was Brandon Belt's birthday. He got his first ever hit in a game on his birthday, and it happened to be a home run. So Captain Belt just continues to have a strong showing, as he did last year and the year before that. So he just continues to be kind of an underrated monster at the plate. But for Carlos Rodon, he had 8 more strikeouts against 20 hitters faced. So he now has 29 strikeouts with 65 hitters faced. It's like a 44% strikeout rate. And the league average for starting pitchers coming into yesterday was about half of that. So overpowering, dominant strikeout stuff. Some of you may remember, we put this out on Twitter, maybe you saw it on your own, but per Baseball Savant's pitch run value metric, Carlos Rodon's 4-seam fastball was the most valuable pitch in baseball last season. And I think at this point, 3 starts into his Giants tenure, it's easy to see why. He can just throw that thing anywhere in the strike zone, and it's either going to be a called strike or a swing and a miss pretty much. That's how dominant of a pitch it is. These guys know a fastball is coming. He threw it like 80% of the time pretty much, I think, in this game. And yet the batters were not really able to even touch it. He threw it 81% of the time. He got 40% whiffs on the pitch per 42 swings. So 40% of the time when they swung at his fastball, it was a swing and a miss, which is just a ridiculous rate. And overall in the game, 40% of swings by the Mets were swings and misses against Carlos Rodon, who improved. Like I said, the strikeout rate is over 44%. The walk rate is very good. He has 6 walks against 29 strikeouts in 17 innings. He's got a 1.06 ERA, fielding independent pitching of 0.87. So he couldn't really be much better except for maybe pitching deeper into games. I think in 2 of his starts, he's gone 5, and then in 1 of them, he went, I think, 7. Yeah, that would make sense with 17 total innings pitched. So what else can you really say about Carlos Rodon? Just a great start. And as I said, if you're looking at Cy Young Award early favorites, I mean, he's got to be right in there towards the top. So just a great outing for him, and it's become win day when Carlos Rodon takes them out, even though they actually lost his first start. But if you can get this type of performance, even if it's through 5 innings, it puts you in a really good position every time. So welcome to the Giants, Carlos Rodon. Those 29 strikeouts in his first 3 starts as a Giant are the most any player has ever had in their first 3 starts by a San Francisco Giants player. So very impressive, and hopefully fans can understand at this point why the Giants targeted this guy and how he's going to help this team win this year. So coming up in just a minute, I want to talk more about what went on in this game, talk about the offense, talk about the bullpen, and then get you set for this potentially series evening game in New York this morning. So all of that in just a minute. But first, whether she prefers a statement piece or everyday subtle elegance, BlueNile.com has fine jewelry options for mom. Mark Mother's Day with something enduring: classic diamond stud earrings, elegant tennis bracelets, birthstone pendants, and so much more at BlueNile.com. If you're having trouble choosing, Blue Nile has jewelry experts on hand 24/7, available via phone or chat to help you find a memorable gift at every budget. This Mother's Day, give mom something she'll treasure forever with fine jewelry from BlueNile.com. Hey, and Locked On listeners get $50 off $500. This podcast exclusive is only good through Mother's Day. Use code LOCKEDON. That's code LOCKEDON, plus every order is insured, ships free, and arrives in discreet packaging that won't give away what's inside. Shop stress-free and find your forever peace. Go to BlueNile.com today. All right, as promised, I want to talk a little bit more about the details of this game. It wasn't just Carlos Rodon. Of course, the Giants had to come out swinging the bats, and that they did. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. Recaps of MLB games with analysis from our local experts, taking fans through the season like no other network. Free and available wherever you get podcasts. It really is great. After every game, all of our local experts have a little short summary of the key takeaways, and all of those get put together into this Locked On Now podcast. So check it out. So talking about the Giants offense, I just think it was huge the way that they came out in the very first inning against a very good pitcher in Chris Bassitt, and they put 3 runs on the board. It was fitting that the first hit of the inning leading off the game came off the bat of Mike Yastrzemski, and it was kind of a bloop hit. Giants are not going to apologize for these bloop hits. They have been, by my analysis and just watching every game, they've hit so many balls well that have been caught. So in this game yesterday, a couple of bloop hits fell in, and I think that they deserved that. And then for the Mets, they had a critical line drive that potentially would have scored 2 runs and made it a 1-run game that Wilmer Flores made a leaping grab on. And to me, the Giants also deserved that. They deserved a hard hit ball costing another team for not falling in and the Giants catching it. They deserved that. So I just really did like, though, the way that they came out in the first inning. Jock Peterson had a big hit. He had 2 hits in this game. Mike Yastrzemski had 2 hits in this game. He did get thrown out on the bases trying to stretch a single into a double, and that just continues to be a theme, unfortunately, for the San Francisco Giants, is making outs on the bases the last couple of years, but can't really fault him too much, and it was ultimately a hit. So the offense came out and scored 5 runs on 8 hits. They didn't score after the first inning. It was kind of similar to the first game of the doubleheader, where they had a great start and then didn't really do much after that. But the key is they did put those 5 runs on the board. Chris Bassitt is a good pitcher, and he really settled in. And they had some chances against the Mets bullpen, but weren't really able to push through. Brandon Belt, as I said, hit a home run on his birthday, first hit he's ever had on his birthday. He had been 0 for 19. Not that that really means anything, except must kind of stink, because I'm sure he knew that. I think he actually said that in the post-game interview. But, good for him, and he's just been a critical part of this offense, obviously, the last couple of seasons when they've been successful. Joey Bart, just looking at the box score, 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. So the strikeouts continue to kind of doom him, and we've seen that now it's dragged everything down with it, where at this point he only has a .207 batting average. I don't have the on-base percentage and slugging pulled up, but I do know that there's still more room to fall, unfortunately. He's still got a 444 average on balls in play. The strikeout rate has gone up to 53%. So that's got to change. If he keeps striking out like this, all of the numbers are just going to keep slipping, and eventually it's going to be untenable. But he's been, improved. He's continued to be more disciplined, and his swing decisions have been better. There's just a lot of swing and miss, and a lot of strikeout. But defensively, and then the swing decisions. But talking about the defense for a second, he's just been a quality defensive catcher, in my opinion. And then also he made a key caught stealing throw in this game on Starling Marte when it looked like the Mets were staging a little bit of a rally. They had Francisco Lindor at the plate. They had just scored a run, and Lindor, he didn't represent the tying run, but he represented the fourth run, could have made it 5-4 Mets with one swing of the bat. And Starling Marte, who had 47 steals and was caught just 5 times last season, attempted to go. I think it was the first pitch of the at-bat. Crowd was on their feet, crowd was into it, and Bart just fired a cannon down to second base, and I believe it was Crawford who caught the ball, put the tag on Marte. Throw was right there, and he was out, and that just kind of stomped out any momentum that the Mets had in this game. So even though Joey Bart, I wouldn't say he struggled at the plate because he still has an above average weighted runs created plus thanks to the walks and thanks to hitting for power when he has had his hits. But you could imagine that the strikeouts could get into your head a little bit, but he has not really taken it out onto the field, and he's been a solid framer, blocker. He has had some issues blocking, but nothing too out of the ordinary. Not, every catcher has their difficulties at times keeping the ball in front of him, but this throw was key in that situation. So all in all, just a good team victory for the Giants, who improved to 8-4. They have one of the better run differentials in the game. There was quite a bit of maybe doom and gloom after losing both games of the doubleheader, but when all is said and done, they have a plus 23 run differential, which has an expected win-loss record of 9-3. So they've actually underperformed that by 1 game, but it's one of the better run differentials in the sport. In the National League, the Dodgers and the Mets are the only teams with better run differentials, and actually in all of baseball, the Dodgers and the Mets are the only teams with a better run differential than the Giants at plus 23. So coming up in just a minute, I want to get you set for this next game, this pivotal game here where you can either go away with a split or you can end up leaving New York losing 3 out of 4. So all of that in just a minute. But first, it's that time of year. I've pretty much given up on all of my New Year's resolutions, but not this year. I'm sticking to my resolution to eat right thanks to Built Bar. It almost feels like it's not really a resolution because I actually enjoy eating them. Have you tried the Puffs yet? If you haven't, you are missing out on one of Built Bar's best tasting bars. Puffs are the first ever protein-infused marshmallow. They're fluffy, they're marshmallowy, they're not just a protein bar, they're a treat, and they're covered in 100% real chocolate. Go to Built.com, scroll down to their macros chart, and you'll be blown away. High protein, low calorie, high fiber, low carb. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and just 4 net carbs to go along with 17 grams of protein. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. All right, as promised, I want to get you set for this. I don't want to say critical. I know I said critical in the open. We are still in the first 2 weeks of the season, so nothing is really critical at this point. But it is at the point where, the first couple games were tough. The second game, you got blown away kind of by Max Scherzer. So we talked about how the offense, you can't really judge them based on a game that was started by Max Scherzer. He has the potential to go out and dominate you on any given night. We talked about how it's like the Mets judging their offense based on a Carlos Rodon start, which they absolutely shouldn't do either. If you look at the Mets offensively in this game, how did they look? Well, a lot of swings and misses, right? And a lot of swings and misses on pitches in the strike zone. Is it their fault or is it the credit to the pitcher? So I think we credit the pitcher in both cases, and that's what happened with Scherzer. But coming up in Game 4 of this series, it's going to be Carlos Carrasco on the mound for the Mets and Anthony DeSclafani, who I think wants to go by Tony. So I think on this show, we're going to start calling him Tony at some point. Tony DeSclafani. Gabe Kapler calls him Tony. He says he doesn't want to be called Disco, but he wants to be, what did he say, Big Tone? Or I think it might have actually even been T-Bone. So we're going to start calling him Tony DeSclafani. He'll be on the mound for the Giants, and if you look at his numbers, the earned run average is 4.32, but the peripherals are better. Fielding independent pitching, 1.61. Expected fielding independent pitching, 3.56. Sierra, which I don't even totally understand the formula there, is 3.23. The expected ERA is actually right in line with the actual ERA. So I don't know exactly. He's been good at preventing walks. He hasn't allowed a homer. Strikeout rate is solid. So the 4.32 ERA, I think it's a little bit bloated. So we should expect better things moving forward from DeSclafani. Actually, now that I see this, looking through the line, the one thing that stands out as something that's going to change is the batting average on balls in play. This is an example of when you can look at a line and see the one thing that is the big, not red flag, but the thing that stands out as something that is going to be corrected. He's got a 464 average on balls in play against him. Career average on balls in play against him, 295. Last year it was 265. So it's going to come down like a couple hundred points basically. So what we should expect to see is less of the balls that are hit in play against him are going to be hits. We're going to see more balls in play that are outs. And that makes sense. If we've watched the first couple of starts he's made, there's just been a lot of hits. And that's uncharacteristic. And this average on balls in play number, it's not going to be that high when all is said and done. It's going to come down. So why not have it start today? Why not have him go out there, pitch to some contact like he normally does? He's not Carlos Rodon. He's not going to blow you away with strikeout stuff. But, there's going to be some contact. And how about today? We're just going to see more of that contact find gloves and go to where position players are positioned. And they're going to get some outs that way. And on the flip side, Carlos Carrasco has overperformed his numbers. He's got an 0.84 earned run average, a 174 average on balls in play. He's been good. I mean, the strikeout stuff has been up there. I think in his last start, he really pitched effectively with a changeup. So he's been good. I'm not trying to say he's just been lucky, but he's not going to be that good. And it's kind of the same thing with Tyler McGill and with Chris Bassitt. Like they were so good in their first couple of starts. You knew that runs were going to come at some point. Carlos Carrasco has also stranded 100% of the base runners that he's allowed. So look for tomorrow, Giants to get some base runners, and he's not going to strand them all. He can't continue to do that. So some of the base runners he allows are going to come around to score. And that's not really a bold prediction. It's just a fact. So hopefully that starts today for the Giants. I don't have a lineup yet, but I figure it's going to be a similar look with Jock Peterson, Brandon Belt, Mike Yastrzemski, Brandon Crawford. Those key lefties are going to be key, as I said. And Darren Ruff, the ability to get him going is going to be huge for this Giants team moving forward. He's supposed to be a big part of the offense, and it hasn't been there yet. But once he heats up, he could really make a difference. So that's what to look for today. The bullpen, by the way, they're kind of the unsung heroes of this team this season. They just continue to, by and large, get the job done. John Brebbia allowed a run, but I think it was the first run he allowed all year. Dom Leone got some critical outs. Tyler Rogers gave up a run, but has largely been effective as he usually is. And then Jake McGee struggled a bit with command in the ninth inning, closing this one out, but ultimately found it and was able to get the job done. So the bullpen, unheralded on this team, but quietly very effective. And the fact that we don't talk about them much means that they've been effective. When you're talking about the bullpen all the time, that usually is a bad thing. So anyway, that's all the time we have for today. Coming up tomorrow, we're going to break down this series. Hopefully the Giants able to come away with a split. I think that would be huge for the, quote, momentum of this team. But then again, going to Washington, D.C., they're going to be the favorites regardless in pretty much every game of that series, in my opinion. So, they'll turn the page no matter what, but it would be big for them, I think, to carry them through this difficult road trip. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. If you like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out a lot. So thank you in advance, and thank you to everyone who's done so already. I can't wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening. Stay locked on Giants.